You just saw with Kelce, he didn't have that same mojo that he had in previous years.
I would throw the house, my farm, and the rest of the land on Patrick Mahomes to have a great year personally.
And he just wants to build off of, you know what, I'm Travis Kelce. I've only made the Pro Bowl, 10 times.
You have a minute left in the game. Patrick Mahomes gets the ball back. That game is over. Hello and welcome to Ain't That Our Ball, our brand new weekly show giving you the inside info from across the NFL. I'm Johnny Lewis and I'm joined by our American football expert, Ryan Sanudo. Ryan, how are you feeling today?
Very good. The NFL season has finally arrived. About damn time.
About damn time is right, Ryan. The weather is cooling down. Hopefully no more heat waves for the summer. You know when it gets a little cooler, it's football season. We will be here with you every Thursday as the season goes on, looking ahead to every weekend of games and deliver you our football X's and O's tactical review show every Monday night.
And today we've got a special Kansas City Chiefs edition ahead of the 2025 campaign. Andy Reid's team suffered a disastrous 40-22 loss to the Eagles in the Super Bowl back in February, and now there's more questions than answers.
There are a lot more questions than answers, and it's sad to say, really, Ryan. It really is sad to say. In this video, we'll definitely be talking all things Travis Kelce, asking is it all over for the Hall of Fame bound tight end? Patrick Mahomes, will he return to his MVP caliber, esque of a season? And for, Andy Reid and the Chiefs, is their window to win a Super Bowl closed? So, Ryan, let's start with Travis Kelce. What's going on? What did his summer look like? What does the depth chart look like for his position at tight end? What's going on?
So he's coming off a disappointing season, like we said. 97 catches, but at the same time, he didn't even crack 900 receiving yards. He didn't have the same energy last year. He just didn't have that burst. Guys were just tackling him as soon as he made the catch. He had 6.2 yards per target last year. The previous year, he had 8.3. So things like that you just saw with Kelce. He didn't have that same mojo that he had in previous years. And this season, he's heard the doubters. He's heard the naysayers. And he just wants to build off of, I'm Travis Kelce. I've only made the Pro Bowl, 10 times. He's slimmed down with his weight. He's really looked, to get better in terms of diet. He's been looking a lot better this upcoming training camp.
I think all those things are fine and dandy. But what's going to be different this year from last year? What is he really going to do this season that's going to be different from last season? Last year, he looked really lethargic. It looked like he wasn't enthused to even be on the sideline sometimes. There are times where I felt like he was getting put in the game just to be a blocker. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you've been a Pro Bowler 10 times, we're looking more from you. When your name is Travis Kelce, we're looking to see more from you. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the only thing I'm worried about. Is you can cut some weight. How is that translating to, on the field?
The thing is, he's not getting any younger. He's going to be 36 in October, and he's got competition in back of him,
Oh, for sure.
Noah Gray,
yep.
He had 40 catches, a season high for him. Even Robert Tonyan is fighting for a 53-man roster spot, and he has playoff experience, with the Packers. Yeah. He had 50-plus receptions in 2022. So things like that can make Kelce, Andy Reid say, you know what? Kelce, you can be on the sideline a little bit here and there, So he's usually near 80% snaps.
Okay.
Can it get to 70, 75, maybe even lower? It might be pushing it, but they're going to be having a full year of Xavier Worthy. Yes, Rashee Rice is going to have that suspension, but he's going to be back. Juju Smith-Schuster.
Okay.
Jalen Royals, guys like that, they can get the football.
They have a better team.
Yeah.
I can definitely say they have a better team this year than they did last year. And honestly, they went, 15-2 last year? So when you really think about, this team, I think they have, especially at the skills positions, I feel like they are a little better than last year, right? So now you have that aspect. Also, I just feel like, who's going to be their impact players? Last year, I feel like it was important that a guy like Travis, they needed him last year, and he was kind of nowhere to be found. Can he be that player this year? And who's that next player for them? Because now, again, a lot of people are getting older, teams are getting better. Who's going to be there? Okay, cool. We have Pat Mahomes. Who's that next guy? That's my question. Who's that next guy?
I think the next guy is Xavier Worthy. You saw it in the Super Bowl, 2 touchdowns. You really saw him ramp up, in the playoffs. But going back to Kelce, he's still going to get his targets from Mahomes. They love throwing, they love connecting with each other.
That's
his guy. Even last year, he had 3rd most targets for a tight end. So he's going to get his targets. But the thing is, can he go downfield? That's the thing. And I think the offensive line, we're not talking about enough. Last year, they had their troubles there. Jawan Taylor, 14 penalties. You can't be going back, stuff like that. They need to improve on. And they got Josh Simmons at left tackle.
A late first round?
Late first-round pick. So guys like that have to step up so Mahomes can get downfield more, and that can help Kelce. But if the offensive line falters like last year, you're going to see another down year by him.
Hopefully they have all of those, cylinders, flowing. But honestly, I don't know if we will see. Actually, will we see? I'll ask you. Will we see Travis Kelce in the starting lineup?
Definitely. I know we were saying, he's coming off a disappointing season, but he's going to be on the field. He's going to be playing. Mahomes loves to throw to him.
Yeah.
But, here and there, they might be like, what? Noah Gray can be over there. Sometimes they do 2 tight end sets as well.
Yeah.
But then, what? They know he's turning 36 in October. They want to make a playoff run again.
Right.
And you saw with Kelce, just didn't have that same energy. And once they had that bye, you saw him go crazy against the Texans in that first playoff game. And the following week, 2 receptions. And then 2 weeks later, 3 receptions. So you really need him, balanced in a way in terms of snaps. So we might see 70 to 75% snaps for him. And I think that would make sense for the Chiefs this year.
Oh, no, for sure. So now, another question I do have for you is, if Travis Kelce gets back to where he should be as, their prolific tight end, what does that look like for Mahomes? Is he back to MVP caliber? What's going on that end?
So I think, first of all, Mahomes said in training camp, there were so many throws last year that he made previous years that he didn't make last year. He even admits that. I said earlier, the offensive line had a lot to do with him getting sacked, getting pressured. Even in the Super Bowl, he wasn't pressured at all and still 6 sacks.
Yeah.
That can't happen. But Mahomes, he wants to throw downfield more. He said that in training camp. Andy Reid, the same thing.
Yeah.
So you're going to be seeing that, and it all comes down to the offensive line, And last year, 26 touchdowns, that's not Mahomes-like.
Yeah.
We expect 35 to 40 touchdowns, and you know what? I predict he's going to get 36, 37. I know that's 10 more than last year, but hey, I think he can do it. I will not doubt Patrick Mahomes. I think that's crazy to me. The guy's a 2-time MVP, 3-time Super Bowl MVP. This guy, regardless of his counting stats last year,
right.
I can still bet on him being a top 3, top 4 MVP candidate. And I think we're going to be seeing the same Mahomes from 2022, 2023.
Yeah.
I think that will happen, but the offensive line has to get better, no doubt about it.
I completely agree with you. I agree with everything you said. I also think I would throw the house, my farm, and the rest of the land on Patrick Mahomes to have a great year personally. That's just how I feel. I think he'll be honestly very fine. I think he'll return back to his MVP, stature. And we'll definitely see, how that, continues obviously for the season. And hopefully we'll see if it leads to, them getting into the playoffs, deep playoff run, maybe a Super Bowl. What does that look like? How do you feel about their chance to win a Super Bowl this year?
I think the Super Bowl window is still here.
Okay.
It's almost the same team as last year, except adding guys, in the draft. And you get a second year in Xavier Worthy. I think that's a guy that we were talking about earlier that you can't forget about him. Jalen Royals, another guy that can be a wide receiver for them.
I mean, he was he was a playmaker in college. He did decent numbers at Utah State. I think he can be a factor actually in their rotation. Hopefully, with Rashi coming back, you have Xavier Worthy. That's a nice little receiving core they have.
I mean, this team, they were trying to get a 3-peat in February and they couldn't do it. This team is always in the Super Bowl, so I will not doubt them.
What's your take on the grand scheme of the dynasty aspect of the Chiefs?
It's ludicrous for people to think this is not a dynasty. This is a core that's won 3 Super Bowls since 2019. They've just dominated the AFC West. They're 26-4 against their divisional opponents since 2020.
Gracious.
I can go on and on about the stats that show that the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC. The Bills just can't find a way. The Ravens just can't find a way.
Yeah, man.
But until that happens, they are a dynasty. Now, after this year, let's say if they don't make the Super Bowl, then you know what? The window might be, creeping, shut.
Okay.
The door might be creeping shut. But honestly, as of right now, they're still a dynasty type team, and they still have this. The players have been there, done that, and now it's a big ask from other teams to, dominate them and catch up to them.
Yeah, honestly, I agree. I don't think people can just discredit the line of work, the history that they've put together. Even when they didn't have the team that they had beforehand, and people said, "Hey, they may not pull it off," and they tend to always pull it off somehow.
They always find a way.
They always find a way, and it's like, like I mentioned previously, you have a minute left in the game. Patrick Mahomes gets the ball back. That game is over.
Yeah, simple as that.
That game is over. That game is over. So, again, their ability to win games, the history that they have, Andy Reid, along with everyone else that they have, I think it just has to be still at least considered. At least I would give them the respect of, what? They deserve to be considered still at least a dynasty.
And you know what? We haven't even talked enough about the defense. Steve Spagnuolo and that defense. That's another aspect that just grinds the gears of opponents. George Karlaftis, Trent McDuffie. These guys just find ways at the opportune times. Things like that. They just ramp up. The playoffs. In the regular season, there might be games where, they still win, but you're like, those aren't the Chiefs that we see in the playoffs. And then they just pull out plays, in the playoffs that you don't see during the regular season, and that's what makes them so special.
And it's funny, I like that point because, it's heard around the league that, Andy Reid's, camps are really treacherous camps, runs you down to the ground. But then he gives you a little break around, November, December. Things start to, be a little calmer. And then that's when you start to see, the Chiefs, hit their stride. They're winning back-to-back games. They're seeming really consistent on offense and defense. So it makes sense that, towards playoff time, they start hitting a stride differently from everybody else. Everyone else is, obviously, getting their things together, but the Chiefs are always a well-oiled machine when they have Andy Reid running the ship and Patrick Mahomes running the field. Every single time. It does not matter. It does not matter. So, I'm not a Chiefs fan, but I think they will prove a lot of people wrong this year. A lot of people wrong this year. So we'll see, Ryan. We'll definitely see.